All right, guys, welcome back to another Master and Apprentice podcast and video. As you guys can see from the title, we've got another book review out for you guys. Our last book review, A New Dawn, we didn't like so much. This day, we've got the Brotherhood book. This is a novel that came out in 2022, I believe. It's a relatively new one. So without further ado, we'll get right into this for you guys. Start off with this is taking time right after episode 2 during the Clone Wars era. I don't know the exact dates, but it's around that time, right? We see Anakin and Padme are married at this time. Anakin's still kind of getting used to his new hand. He's no longer a Padawan learner, so we can estimate maybe it's a year or two into it. It's still relatively new into the Clone Wars. So Anakin, Obi-Wan, Clone Wars era. This is every Clone Wars fan. This is exactly what they're looking for a novel. And so looking at this, reading it, it's a pretty good novel. To be quite honest, it's like right out of a Clone Wars episode, like a filler arc. I think this is better than that, though, because it's got some things we normally wouldn't get, with the Anakin Padme romance kind of pushed out a little bit more, which for some fans they don't like, but for some fans they do like. And to get something that we don't see very often, I think is always a good thing, right? Whether you like it or not, it's good to have more stuff presented for you that you don't see in the film or the TV show. So I like that aspect. One thing I really didn't like is they kind of split Obi-Wan and Anakin up through the most of the novel. And this whole novel is called Brotherhood. It's about Anakin and Obi-Wan. We were kind of hoping at first glance, looking at this would be an exciting adventure with both of them, right? One can maybe assume like the Revenge of the Sith novel, right? That's no longer canon. That novel is right about just Anakin and Obi-Wan working together right up until Revenge of the Sith, right? And this is kind of what I was hoping for when I heard about this novel coming out back in 2021. It's not so much. It's not bad. I think it's a pretty good book.
I liked the Padme in there a lot, partially because you see this is right after Anakin's no longer a Padawan, and Obi-Wan's already picking up that there potentially something between Padme and Anakin going on. Like at the very end of the Clone Wars season 7, we see Rex covering for Anakin, and Obi-Wan's like, I know this is going on, buddy. This isn't a secret or anything. And we see the very beginning of that, and that's just one of the small aspects of this. There's also a lot of parallels with his not Padawan, but random little youngling that he brings along with him, Anakin does. How he's like, I suck at teaching, I'm a horrible teacher, whilst giving the youngling some actually very good lessons. And then talking towards the end of the book, I never want a Padawan, whatever. The very ending of this has a big announcement by Palpatine saying that the clones are now, or the Jedi is now leading the clone armies, which was like, well, no, duh, that's what it was in Geonosis, but it's made very dramatic.
I wasn't expecting a whole lot of like Clone Wars stuff, like big battles with droids. Like I wasn't expecting another battle of Geonosis or anything, but I was expecting more of a dynamic between Anakin and Obi-Wan on the pages, but we really didn't see too much of it, which I think is the biggest defactor from it for me personally. Otherwise, the whole premise with Cato Nemodia and that whole bombing series with Asajj Ventress and all of that, I think that was very intriguing and interesting, and that seems like it'd be stolen right out of the Clone Wars. That's a Clone Wars arc that I think would draw a lot of fans and have some cool stuff in it. But again, the biggest thing, which is Anakin and Obi-Wan not being with each other, really knocks it down. This is a potential S tier for me without that, but with that being in there, the whole book being about them two, and they're not really together, just kind of really pulls it down. So I can go probably top of B is where I was thinking for this one. You can make a case bottom of A. There's just a lot of forgettable parts too, in my opinion.
Yeah, there really is.
There's a lot of forgettable names and characters. Yeah. There's a lot of cool parts, right? We see Obi-Wan revisit, what's the guy? Dex. We see him revisit Dex, and we don't really see that happen again in canon or lore on screen after Attack of the Clones. So it's nice to kind of get that again on the pages. That's always fun. There are some cool things that I did like about this. We see technically, it's not officially named, but we see Cal Kestis in this book, right? That's really awesome. I mean, this is one of the first times we see Cal Kestis really mentioned outside of the games. There's lots of cool parts. So I can make a case between top of B or bottom of A. It's a fun novel. I don't think it's a must read, but if you're like, you've read quite a few Star Wars novels, you're like, what should I read next? This is one that I would recommend. It's a good novel, but it's not one I would recommend at top of my list for sure. Out of 10, I give it like a middle of the pack, like a 7 or a 6. right? So, a New Dawn is like a 5. It's like right in the middle, right? Ahsoka's got some fun stuff. It's like a 6 or a 7, and this is kind of where I put that. I think it's a little bit more intriguing than Ahsoka, but not a whole lot. I think Tarkin had more for me than this book.
Yeah, I'll agree with that because Tarkin applied a lot more to the main plot. The main plot, the only thing that I would say really went into effect was the banking. Sorry, not the banking. The Trade Federation being a big part of it. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Top of B or bottom of A. I'll go top of B just because I want to put it bottom of A, but I just read it, so I'm right off the high. But the Trade Federation being a big part of it, it's like, oh, that just ties so well into, I don't know, the Phantom Menace. We see him there, and we're like, wow, we don't know anything about these people, and they want to be independent. The biggest thing that really affects the main plot about this, though, is just the fact that, oh gosh, now the Jedi are leading the Grand Army of the Republic, and that was really already known. It's like now it's just official. There's nothing detrimental, nothing very big to the plot that was really important. But then again, it's just a nice, really cool plot that's just put in there with a whole bunch of cool details from random places, like Dooku having that relationship with the Jedi Order. We don't see that a whole lot in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, it's a fun novel. Like I said, I think it's a little bit above middle of the pack, but it's not high up there. Again, if Anakin and Obi-Wan were like this big team, because that's what the big draw about this book. I mean, that's the title, that's the cover art, that's what even the back. If you read the back of the book and you read it like, oh, this is gonna be a fun Anakin and Obi-Wan adventure like the Clone Wars. Yeah. It really wasn't like that. It's a good adventure. It's a good story. There's some cool, little tidbits, some good lore to add. But again, having Anakin and Obi-Wan, I think, was to its deficit. You have that. This is one of the more higher echelon books. But I just feel like that was missing chemistry, right? Because you really can't get enough of that. That's one of the most important relationships in Star Wars is between Anakin and Obi-Wan, right? The whole galaxy kind of swung in power through that dynamic, through that relationship. Intriguing to me. So there you guys have. Let us know if you guys disagree, agree down in the comments. We put it at top of B, right above Ahsoka, below Tarkin in the A tier. So a good book. Definitely recommend reading it, but there's some ones ahead of it I recommend first. So with that, we hope you guys did enjoy this. Don't forget to hit that download and follow if you guys are on the podcast. If you guys are on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like. And we will see you guys in the next episode.